Uh, the CD set for the entire conference is $35, and the DV set is $60. So, with a nice jacket and cover on it. So this is what it looks like. So if you'd like to have what you've been experiencing over the last couple of days to take home with you, make sure you go out and talk to the Royal Crown people out there. So we just want to take this time and just kind of settle ourselves and quiet our hearts. We have a couple CDs that we just want you to listen to and prepare your hearts for this afternoon session. So. Ascending and descending, ascending and descending.
Welcome. I have the privilege this afternoon of getting to interview Akiane. I always wanted to be an Oprah wannabe. So
you will be today.
Yeah. And actually, Akiane has been on the Oprah show.
When I was 9 years old.
And she was telling me back in the hospitality room that she didn't even know who Oprah was when she went. Did you?
No, I didn't. I think that was a good thing in a way, so I will not be so nervous. And I finally figured out afterwards, and it was incredible. I was able to be on the show, and many people look at me and see me. It was just a blessing.
Yeah, how many people watched that show, do you know?
Millions.
Millions. So this is a piece of cake here today. So Akiane's been interviewed by a lot of television shows. She's been on the Good Morning America show and The View, and what are some of the other shows you were telling me?
CNN Lou Dobbs, Late Late Show, Wayne Brady Show. There's hundreds of more. That's the few.
Yeah. So we are blessed and privileged to have Akiane with us this afternoon, and she lives in Idaho, and we live in the same town in Post Falls, Idaho.
I'm so glad, because we're such good friends.
Yeah, and I've had just the wonderful privilege of getting to know their family, and they have a beautiful family, and Akiane is here with her father, Mark. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and her mom is home, Pirelli, she has 4 brothers, Akiane does, and they just had a new baby who's 14 months old, right?
Yes, he's just a blessing.
So Akiane has an older brother named Delphine. He's 17, and she has a brother named Jean-Luc, who's 15. And then Ilya, I've talked about him during this conference. Ilya is 7, and he's also painting and writing poetry.
He does abstract painting, and he's doing poetry, and he's publishing his book. And in a month, it's gonna come out, and I'm so excited for him, and it's amazing.
And then the new baby, and his name, why don't you pronounce it for us?
Aurelius, but in American, since people can't roll their tongue, it's Aurelius. So.
Yeah, and their family is beautiful. I love going to their home. The parents have really nurtured all of the children in their creativity. I just showed Akiane this quote that I read this morning. It's by Picasso, and he said, "Every child is an artist. The challenge is to remain an artist after you grow up." And I was asking Akiane to maybe share a little bit about how her mother and father have nurtured their creativity.
Well, where do I begin? From the beginning, my mom, of course, she didn't believe me at first, but little by little, she just started supporting me in so many ways.
Akiane, can I interrupt? I should have asked you first before that question. For those of you that might not know Akiane's story, she got taken to heaven when she was 4 years old. And her family weren't religious at all. And so that's when she said that her mom didn't believe her at first because she didn't have any grid at all for this. So why don't you start there, Akiane?
From the
Yeah,
beginning?
and then
Okay.
and then bring in how your parents have nurtured what you saw in heaven.
Well, it all started when I was 4 years old, and of course at the time, my family did not believe in God. We didn't go to church. We didn't pray, and then one day I started having these visions and dreams about heaven, about galaxies, about people, about my future. It was amazing. For months this has been going on, and God told me not to tell anybody because they were not ready yet. But, months went, and it was just clogging my mind. So I had to tell someone, so I told my mom. As I said, she was confused. She didn't know if I was hallucinating or not. She just really didn't believe me. Little by little, she catched these details about I was telling her future, and then when it happened, she little bit say, what is wrong? Why is she saying that? And she a little bit believed me, every day. And soon they supported me, and I started drawing to prove it to them more what I was seeing. And then later I was using pastels when I was 6 years old, then painting acrylics and oils. And my favorite medium is acrylics, so I'm sticking to that. And they have been so supportive in so many ways. They support my brothers. My oldest brother's doing his own business, and he's helping me with my business when he was 14. My second oldest brother, he's writing his own book, and he's doing music, and he's helping me. And as for Ilya, he's 7 years old, and he's so creative and so talented, and he even inspires me. And, I don't know what's going to come next with the little one, and it'll be a surprise.
So you started drawing when you were 4, and you started
Yes.
painting when you were 6. How did you ask your mom to give you the art supplies, or did she just go buy them? Or
I actually told her specifically to get an art supply. If I didn't have a pencil or a paper in my hand, I would just take food even and draw it on the walls. That's how much I wanted it so bad, and to share with them. And then, I kind of told my mom to go to the store, give me these brushes, and it should be the opposite, but in this case it wasn't. So that's how it all went.
and so tell us a little bit more. You said that you started having dreams and visions, but I know that there was one time at least that you were literally taken up
to
Could you
heaven.
tell about that experience?
When I was 5.5 years old, and it was in the process where they're just balancing on the fact that I was seeing these visions and dreams. One day I was literally not here on earth. I was taken to heaven, and my body was split into millions of selves, and they were going into these places and these dimensions, these galaxies. Meanwhile, down in my home, there were hundreds of policemen in our house, in our yard, searching for me. And we lived in a small town in Rollin, Missouri, and so we knew everybody, and they were searching for me for 6 hours. But I saw every single move what they were doing as if I was from above. I saw my brother hiding in a bush. I saw policemen searching around the lake. I saw everybody. But 6 hours later, I came back. I kind of walked around the hallway, and then I saw my mom talking to, the policeman. She just looked at me, and she couldn't believe her eyes, so she looked again, and then she started crying so much, and she just ran up to me, and she asked me, so where have you been? You've been scaring me to death. And I says, Mom, I was tired because I was drained from traveling a lot. So I says, Mom, don't worry. Everything's okay. I was in heaven. She kind of, she's a mother, so she was so caring of me. And so she really didn't take what I was saying so seriously. So, little by little, she started listening what I was saying, what places I was seeing, and what people I was talking to, and she just started supporting me. And here I am today talking with you.
So what you saw, did that inspire what you paint?
That inspired me for me to draw more, for me to paint more. I saw so many things that I started drawing thousands of sketches a day, and sometimes I threw them away in the garbage can because they were not perfect. And since then I was a perfectionist, so I liked everything perfect. And it was just an incredible tool for me to use. I'm so glad I was able to go there in a good way.
So Akiane has a book that has been put together of her life, her art, and her poetry. And there's actually books out in the hallway if anybody wants to purchase one of these. And it's her story. And I would encourage you to read it. But there's one thing in this book, when I read it, that just impacted me. And it was when you wrote about the music of heaven.
Oh, my
Could you talk about the music of
The
heaven?
music, I don't know where to start, because it was so beautiful that when I came down here on earth and I started listening to my mom's lullabies, what happened was the music screeched my ears. It was so bad. I had to cover my ears and I was crying. I was like, Mom, stop it, stop. And she was crying. It's like, what did I do wrong? Am I singing bad? And I says, no, Mom, but I don't know what's wrong. I'm just hearing the different things. And the music there is so different that when I came here and it was just screeching in my ears like chalk on a blackboard, it was so bad. But, you could even in heaven, you could actually taste the music. You could actually taste the air. It was so beautiful, but when years went by, I was able to balance this music and that music. But I'm so glad I was able to do that because I love music here and I love music there, and I'm just so blessed.
So didn't you say that the music even had color?
Oh, they had color. It just had everything. It had taste, color, it had, hearing, it had touch, it had everything. It's so hard for me to describe to you what I was seeing, but one day you guys will see it.
Tell me about the colors in heaven and then how you've tried to bring those colors into your paintings.
As for colors, that was very hard because it was completely opposite what we have here on earth and there in heaven. When I was painting Supreme Sanctuary, I really wanted to paint something that to show to people what I was seeing in heaven. And the colors were so difficult because what I had on my palette, completely different. And the best I can do, I just use the rich colors and I try to paint them, but it was so difficult. But, one day I will be able to paint the exact colors what I was seeing.
I know one of your favorite paintings is The Prince of Peace, and you painted that when you were 8 years old.
8 years old, yes.
Could you tell us about that picture and how that came
that
about?
That picture has so many stories to tell, but when I was searching for a model for 2 years, I went to malls, I went to stores, I went to everywhere, and I couldn't find the right person to represent Jesus. Well, one day I told my mom and my dad, it's like, I can't do it. I give up. Well, we heard a knock on the door that exact same day in the afternoon, and I opened it, and it was 6.5-foot tall man who was a carpenter. And I looked at him. I was like, you're perfect. You're just what I was looking for. No, I was small. I was like this tall, and I was looking up. And of course, he was expecting a grown-up. And he heard from his friend's friend that I was looking for a model, and he wasn't expecting, an 8-year-old girl to paint him. So it took a little while for him to believe that I was the artist, and later I started sketching him, and later I started painting him. But that specific piece, as you can see, it's a portrait. One side of his face is light that represents the truth. The dark side of his face represents the suffering. The light in his eye and the dark side represents he will always be with us when we're in trials. And that specific painting was so meaningful to me. It's still my favorite today.
All of Akiane's pictures have wonderful stories behind them, and I encourage you after the session to go into the gallery and look at the paintings that are in there. But I love to hear the story behind each painting, and I know some is in the book, but some of her newer ones You're going to have
There's
another book coming out.
Yeah, I'm working on my third book right now, and I'm putting all the newer paintings there and newer poetry there, and it's going to be like the best book ever, and that I've ever done, of course. But it's going to be incredible.
And if
excited.
you are interested, there are the first book is here for purchase if you haven't bought one. But you can also go to Akiane's website. It's artakiane.com. And that's Akiane, right? artakiane.com.
Exactly.
But Akiane, we have your self-portrait over here. I know there's an interesting story of how this got commissioned. Maybe you can tell the story, but also tell us about the painting.
Well, of course, this is my self-portrait, and I wanted to show people what I was feeling when God was helping me to do the other paintings. Well, as you can see, I don't have a palette in my hand. That's where I put the colors on and I paint it. What happens is the palette is the universe. And when God paints a star, I take that star and I paint a new star. And I'm co-creating with God, and I believe I'm doing that with every single painting. And all of you guys are doing that the exact same thing. You're co-creating with God. And I really wanted to express that feeling in this painting. And this when I think it was 11 years old with acrylics. And this is the full size.
Did someone commission you to do that painting? Didn't they ask you to do it?
They wanted me to do it, but they didn't commission me to do it.
Okay.
So they got me the idea, and I started painting it.
And then they never came back or something?
No,
and then you got to keep the picture.
I think it was an angel.
Yeah, it was probably an angel.
I think they wanted me to paint that, but for some reason, I don't like painting myself. I like painting other things, but, people like it.
That is so one of my favorite, and it really has been the theme of this conference that we are called to co-create with God. In the beginning, God created, and we are called to co-create, and she captured that so beautifully.
Oh, thank you.
So beautifully she captured how we are to co-create with God. I think that is just one of my very, very favorites.
Oh, thank you.
And then this one over here, why don't you explain this one, Akiane?
This is actually called The Creation. I think it was 10, 11 years old I did this, but it's all about the creation of our universe. I put all the planets in there. I put so many hidden, objects in there. And I had so much fun with this that I actually put a little astronaut that big, and I put my initials on it. And some people couldn't find it. Probably like 95% couldn't find it, and I had to show them it. But, if you guys like to look and be mysterious and to find it, that would be really cool. But, I loved painting this painting. Just the blues, the magentas I just loved the colors so much that I loved, and I really enjoyed it.
Well, I wish we had all of your paintings in here so that you could give the story behind them, but again, you can read in the book. I know one of my favorites, too, is the one you did of Eve, eating the fruit. And when I heard Akiane share the story behind that painting, it reminded me of how it must have been with Jesus when he was a young boy and how he explained things to his parents. Yeah. Because she knows theology that is way beyond her years because of being with Jesus and being in heaven. And I was amazed when she told what that picture meant. Why don't you share just a little bit? We don't have the picture here, but can you share a little bit about that one? It is in the gallery.
But it's Eve, and I blended 4 races to present Eve, the mother of all mankind. And when she bit into the fruit of knowledge of good and evil, the red is evil, the green is good, she just found the deception bleeding through it. As you can see, there's like a droplet of like red substance coming through the fruit, and then she's just looking up to God for forgiveness. And I really wanted to capture that so bad into the painting, and that was actually my quickest piece I've ever done, and yet it was the most meaningful piece, and I'm so glad I did that.
Well, my very favorite of Akiane's paintings is the one that you did of Mary holding the baby.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
My favorite.
They're all our favorites. But that one, I remember coming to your house when you were just in the middle of painting it, and I just cried. And they were so gracious and gave me the print of that one, and it's such a treasure, such a treasure. But could you explain that one too? I know that there's a real meaning behind that painting also.
Well, that actually, I was inspired by me and my mom. I just was so connected with her, and I was so attached to her that I really wanted to represent something, to represent our, connection. And, Mary is sitting down, she's holding baby Jesus, and I connected her robe, with baby Jesus's. And I really wanted to present the connection between the two. And one side of her hand is underneath the child that's in the shadows that presents, the crucifixion. But her other hand on top of the child that's in the light represents the birth and the resurrection. And all those times she was with him, all those times. And I just really wanted to present the love between the two. And I love blue. That's my favorite color, by the way. And it was really fun painting that.
Put it up on the screen.
That's it.
But there's a big print of it in the gallery. You have to go see it. It is just so amazing. And there's another one of Mary that you did also. What are you painting right now, Akiane?
I just finished 2 pieces, so, I don't know what's going to come next. And one of the pieces, actually, a close-up of the hands, and 50 babies are around the hands in the womb. And it's very interesting because I never done that before. And another one was also a baby, but it's an abstract painting. And I never done abstract in my whole life, so it was very fun to get away from the realism and just free my mind. And whatever comes out, then it comes out. And it was just, I kind of put a lot of water into it, a lot of color. It's like a little watercolor scene, and I just watched the colors just form. It was so incredible, and I loved it.
I think you told me that you painted the one with the 50 babies for your dad.
For his birthday present.
His 50th.
His 50th, but of course he doesn't want 50 babies, but just the representation. He just loved it.
Yeah. We've had some questions turned in by all of you, and so we thought we would ask Akiane some of the questions that you guys have. And let's do the first one here. Okay, we already answered that one, but are there animals in heaven? That's a good question.
That is actually a very good question. Of course they are. There were so many different kinds of animals there. They're just countless. Of course we have a number of animals here on Earth, but my eyes were almost bloated from seeing everything. Actually, I was able to communicate with the animals. I was able to hear the animals' thoughts. I was able to feel them, and I was so connected to each one of them. And of course, it was so long ago that I was seeing this, and I'm so glad I'm able to remember that, because it's such a good feeling, it's such a good image, and of course, there's so many animals there.
And you paint a lot of animals, too,
yes.
don't you? The horses one is a beautiful one. That's over in the gallery, too.
Horses is my favorite animal, so the love at first sight, that is just amazing. I love doing that.
There it is. How old were you when you painted that one?
I think it was...
Oh, it says 11. Age 11
yeah,
up
that's what I
there.
was saying, 11.
Okay.
Just almost turning 12.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
40 by 73. And it's pretty big, but
yeah,
I want to do larger in the future.
She paints on big canvases, and I heard you saying that when you were young, you would have to stand on a stool even.
I had to stand on a stool. I had sometimes to use the ladder, and sometimes I climbed on the easel and started painting it. And it was just a lot of fun. So.
That they are just so beautiful when you see the big originals, especially. Okay, another question that somebody had is, what are your short and long-term goals?
Well, ever since I was 4 years old, I always had a goal of helping children and trying to unite people with my art and poetry. And I think that's always going to be my forever goal, and I'm still going to continue it. And no matter what pathways and what challenges I have to go through, and I'll never quit, that goal.
I know you've painted an Asian girl. Is that called Hope, or
Yes, one is called Hope and one is called Faith.
You want to tell the story at all behind that?
Oh,
Because you have such a
gosh.
heart for children and children in orphanages too. And
Well, that was actually a true story where this Asian girl was tied up to a rope, left to die in the streets of, Asia. I don't know, I think it was China or Japan, but just these missionaries came over and they adopted her. And her parents, they didn't have anything to do with her. I don't know where they are right now, but at this particular point, when I met them, I think it was at a store or a grocery store or a restaurant, and I was so attached to that story so much, I wanted to paint her. And I loved the Asian culture. I have, little statues, little kimonos. I love them. But the second painting is called Hope, where she left her, hard memories behind. As you can see, there's, gray mountains, and now she's like in a little hill full of flowers and blossoms all over. And I really wanted to present the hope that she's looking for in her future, and it's going to be a very exciting future for her.
another question. They had that one up there. It was beautiful. What gifts and talents do you have that are on hold that you want to develop?
Well, I love music a lot. So I am playing the piano right now for 2 years, and my teacher said I'm probably the most advanced student she's ever taught. And since I have such a heart for piano, I so want to continue that. And I don't know how that's going to connect with my other gifts, but I want to play the flute and the violin. I got it for Christmas, and I can't wait to start. So.
That's great. I know we brought Teresa Griffith over to your house, and she plays all different kinds of flutes, and she really wants to connect with you more on
definitely.
on that. So that's what's been so wonderful living in the same town, that sometimes when we have guests come in, we get to bring them out to Akiane's house. I remember when we brought David Vancouvering out, the quantum physicist, and
he is wow.
he is wow.
That's a big mind, of course.
Yeah, and I loved listening to their conversation, and your brothers really too loved David and engaged in conversation. And then you started painting quantum paintings too, I know, after that.
It was so incredible. Actually, I started painting that before he came, and he told me the story. I don't know where I got the word quantum or those little world, but I just had a vision or a dream about these places. So I drew them, I painted them. What happened was, a couple months later, this quantum physicist came over, and he just looked at me and was like, how did you know that that is a part of the quantum world? And he started saying to me this with mathematical formulas, and I kind of just don't understand it or remember it, but it was just incredible to hear from him, a quantum scientist, that I was painting the real thing, and I just really that's just like a small, minuscule part what I was seeing, and it's just incredible to hear that.
That's interesting too, because we know that Einstein, even with the theory of relativity, it came through a dream. And Einstein said that imagination is more important than knowledge. And it was just so great listening to them talk about science. And I know your brothers are so interested also in the quantum and all of that. So.
They loved it. They loved listening to him. They watched his little movie, and they just sat there like for hours just listening to him. It was awesome.
Yeah. So Akiane has lots of interests and is developing her music and other gifts and talents too. Another question that we had was about angels. And we're actually in Boise, near Boise, where we know Roland Buck wrote the book Angels on Assignment, had angelic encounters years ago right here in the city. And I know that some people had a hard time believing him and all of that, which you could probably relate to.
Oh, yes.
But tell us about the angelic realm and some of the encounters that you've had.
Where do we start there? All I could say, there were so many angels that I was seeing that there was so much that I actually forgot almost all of them. And I remember I painted actually two angels that I actually remember. One was with an angel holding this energy filled with, love, and she was actually wearing a veil that represents the power from God. And I just looked at them, and I was wondering, like, where are their wings? I thought, angels